Day 3, Max's day. It is Rock Band Gigs Day. This is not Max's best day at the camp. He is not into the band stuff. He has no skills to play in a band. Max thinks Todd and Jack play the drums well. He cannot stand that. He wants to crush the rock band gig for them. "What are you up to, Max?" asked Cliff. "Let us play a prank on Jack and Todd." Max half kids to test what Cliff will say. "What do you think?" Cliff does not say a thing. He does not like it when Max acts like this. He does not want to play pranks. This plan is not for him. "Hi, kids," says Mr. Gibbs as he gets in the hut. Max jumps when Mr. Gibbs pops up next to him. "Oh, that was bad. Do you think Mr. Gibbs got that?" He asks Cliff. Cliff shrugs. Pranks are not his thing, but he still does not say a thing to Max. Mr. Gibbs hands the kids their time slots for the rock band gig prep. "Cliff, you have the 10 a.m. slot in cabin 101. Max, you are at 11 a.m. in cabin 102. "Time to go. I got the 10 a.m. slot," yells Cliff as he grabs the trumpet and sprints out of the hut. He just wants to get out of there. Cliff is glad to be at the 10 a.m. class with the best band. He plays the trumpet well, but he still needs a bit of help. Jack and Todd help Cliff with his act. Cliff is glad for the help, but he does not get why they want to help him. Max says Jack and Todd are bad, so Cliff expects them to be bad. But now he thinks Max may be just as bad with his pranks and all. At the end of the class, Cliff packs his trumpet in his box to bring with him. He wants to play it a bit more when lunch ends so he can do his best at the gig. He sprints out fast not to bump into Max. He thinks Max might be mad that Cliff is not at the 11 a.m. class with him. Cliff runs to the pond. He sits on a rock with a rod. "Can I fish with you?" asks Scott. He sits on a rock next to Cliff. All the kids like Scott. He is fun. Back at the hut, Max checks the clock on the wall. It is just 10:45. I do not like this band stuff. There must be a way to get out of this gig," he thinks. "I wish Cliff was in this class with me." Max gets to cabin 102 at 10:50 a.m. He still does not have a thing to play. That just kills him. He likes to be the best in all he does. He checks the list on the wall. This does not look good. Clarinet? No. Trumpet? No. Drums? No. Then he spots it. The list says gong. No skill to play and quick to get the hang of. This is for me, thinks Max. He digs into the stack. He grabs the big brass gongs and a stick that is next to it. Just then, Jack and Todd pass by cabin 102. Max is in the class with the gong in his hand. "Gong? Not a bad pick. You need no skills for that," says Jack, and they run out. "That is it! I will play a prank on Jack and Todd. They will go down at the rock band gig." But what trick? Max has to map this out well. At 11:05, the rest of the kids are in the class. They are all set to play. "This slot is for you if you are not a band whiz," tells Mr. Gibbs. "Yuck! It is by skill. I bet Jack and Todd were in cabin 101 with Cliff. I cannot stand that I'm stuck in this class," grunts Max. "Can I play the gong, Max?" asks Mr. Gibbs. "Oh, can you play the gong, Max?" asks Mr. Gibbs. "Not yet," Max says. "Did you play the gong in the past?" Mr. Gibbs asks. Matt says no. Then he hits the gong with the stick. Bong, bong, bong. "Max, can you step it up just a little bit?" asks Mr. Gibbs. He thinks Max cannot be this bad. "This is my best. Trust me on this," says Max. But this is not his best. Not at all. "Oh my," thinks Mr. Gibbs. "Can I skip the rock band gig?" Max asks. This is his shot to get out of the gig. Mr. Gibbs frets what the gig will be like if Max is there. Not just his lack of skills. Max will be mad that he is not the best. The rest will have to pay for it. A mad Max is not what Mr. Gibbs wants at the gig. In fact, Max, yes, it will be best if you skip the rock band gig. But then you will get a big task on Champ Day. You will have to help with the setup of the hall for the basketball contest. If you can do that, you can skip the rock band gig. Think and pick. The rock band gig or the Champ Day setup, says Mr. Gibbs. Setup for the Champ Day is Max's job on the list. This does not add more for him to do, but he will not tell that to Mr. Gibbs. I do not have to think. Champ Day setup it is. I will be glad to help. I am out of the rock band gig, Max asks. Mr. Gibbs nods. He gets back the brass gong from Max still intact. You can go now, Max, but do not forget the setup. He lets Max out of the class. Max is glad to get out of the rock band gig. On his way out, he spots Jack and Todd in Cabin 101. They play the drums and have fun. I miss having fun with Todd, Max thinks as he gets out. But he forgets Todd fast when he spots Cliff by the pond. He is not glad that Scott sits with Cliff. Is that a rod in your hands? Will you fish? Are you nuts? This stings. Max cuts in their chat, and the fun ends for Cliff. Cliff is not glad that Max is out this quick. He just got to the pond. He drops the rod and stands up in a rush. Just one more thing that Cliff likes but cannot do, thanks to Max. He picks up the rod and hands it to Scott. Max tells Cliff that Mr. Gibbs let him out of the rock band gig. He tells Cliff to skip the gig as well. Cliff wants to be in the gig, but he cannot tell this to Max, so he says that Mr. Gibbs will not let him skip as well. Plus, there is not much time left until the gig. I must play my trumpet just a bit more, says Cliff. No way, says Max. Let us play chess. He grabs Cliff's hand, and Cliff's trumpet stays in the box until the gig. Max and Cliff hang out with Ted and play chess. Ted sits at a desk next to Cliff. He checks Cliff's chess steps when Cliff plays with Max. Check what time it is, Cliff, Ted says as he cuts in. Time for the gig. Cliff gets up fast. We have to be on time, Ted grabs Cliff's hand. Let us go. Cliff picks up his trumpet and runs with Ted. Cliff, get back to the hut quick when your act ends. I will be there, Max yells. On the way to the gig, Ted asks Cliff, what did you do with your king back there? Cliff shrugs. Why do you let Max win like this, all the time? I do not get it. You have to get out of your shell and stand up to Max. It's just chess, Ted. Not a big thing, says Cliff. He wants to brush it off. At the gig, Cliff does not play as well as he wants. It is not his best. He is in and out of the gig quick to hang out with Max in the hut. He does not get to check out the rest of the acts. In the hut, Max and Cliff plan for the Champ Day. This is fun for Cliff. This is the Max he likes, and Max forgets to play a prank on Jack. The day ends with no tricks.